Hi everybody, I'm Jman, and this is Jman at Magic Gate, Gran Turismo, the real driving simulator. That's what we're playing tonight. But before we start to play, it's time to read our Bible. This is from Jeremiah 1:9. Then the Lord put out his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said to me, Behold, I have put my words in your mouth. Jeremiah 1:9 is actually one of my personal favorite verses. In fact, before I start filming, what I like to do is I like to say a prayer, and in my prayer, I ask the Lord to put His words into my mouth. And I don't necessarily know that I always feel like it's a success. But part of that is because of how well I'm listening to myself or how focused I get on the game. So, before I start talking about myself, because this isn't about me, there is something about this verse that calls to me, but the verse is still out of context. What exactly does this mean? Who is Jeremiah? Why did Jeremiah write in this book? So, Jeremiah is one of 5 major prophets. We've actually looked at one already, Daniel. Daniel is the 5th of the 5 major prophets. Jeremiah is the 2nd. Isaiah is the 1st. Ezekiel is the 4th. And in between Jeremiah and Ezekiel, there's another book that was also written by Jeremiah, most believe, named Lamentations. And the reason that most believe that Lamentations was written by Jeremiah is because Jeremiah is called the weeping prophet. The book of Jeremiah is about a lot of crying and complaining that he did to God, to the Israelites, about a lot of things. But there's a notable verse in Jeremiah, other than the one that I read tonight. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to give you a hope and a future, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Jeremiah 29:11. This is from a deeply emotional book, Jeremiah. He is called the weeping prophet. He complained a lot to God, really. He said, Lord, they're not listening to me. It was 40 years that Jeremiah preached. Not preached, but prophesied. 40 years he prophesied, and nobody listened. Nobody took him serious. Nobody believed what he was saying. And he got tired of it. He complained about it. He did not like it. But a lot of stuff happened during those 40 years. One of the events that happened is somebody took all of his scrolls or notes that he had written and threw them into a fire and burned them. And he had to rewrite all of those. But still, what's the context? Well, obviously Jeremiah 1 makes it early in Jeremiah. It's the first chapter of Jeremiah. And in verse 9, by this time in verse 9, what's happened is God has come to Jeremiah and said, Jeremiah, I want you to speak, and people aren't going to listen to you. And Jeremiah said, no. And God said, okay, you don't think you want to, but I'll help you out here. And basically it came down to God said, look, you're going to speak whether you want to or not. In fact, I am putting those words that I want you to say into your mouth right now, so that you speak them. Now, Jeremiah 1:10, following Jeremiah 1:9, I think Jeremiah 1:10 is a very important verse about this, because when I read it, why I like 9 is because of what 10 says. 10 says that God has given Jeremiah the power to uproot, to destroy, to overthrow, and to build back up. The words that God gave Jeremiah are powerful words. And that's important for all of us. All of our words are powerful. Our words have the power to destroy and build up. I am not liking these cars today. If we are mean to somebody and we curse somebody, that is one way of destroying somebody's life. Especially depending on how close we are to that person. And as it turns out, the closer we are to people, the more likely we are to use hurtful language against them. Not necessarily be hurtful towards them physically, but definitely use language or even words that we know will push buttons because we have something we want to prove. And I know I'm guilty of it because I tell my coworkers that, oh, if you weren't so... If I didn't think you could handle some of these words that I say, I wouldn't treat you that way. But I know that that's not necessarily the case. Part of it is I know my coworkers and I want to get under their skin because I can be a jerk sometimes. More than sometimes, I'm sure people will tell you that. But I also know which ones that I am okay, that it's okay for me to get under the skin of, and I know which ones, yeah, maybe I should try not to be so much of a pain to. And I think we all have people like that in our lives, but here's the thing. The words that we use definitely still can tear somebody up or build them up. And we should not be wanting to tear anybody down. Using harsh or cruel language against somebody isn't right. Making a joke at somebody's expense, whether they can take it or not, and seriously, whether they can take it, it still affects the way that person thinks. Like I tell some of those coworkers that I'm more of a jerk to, that I expect it coming back, and maybe I'm defensive, so I go a little bit too rough at the beginning just so that I can say that I won, because now they're not going to try and be rough back, which is obviously not the right thing to do. It's not the best thing to do. It's not the appropriate thing to do. And it doesn't help in building friendships. It certainly doesn't help if somebody's having a bad day. And how am I supposed to know that right away when I first see them? I mean, yes, there are physical cues that I could find, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just because I don't see them, they're not there. Now, that's why I say Jeremiah gives us some very powerful words. And when God gives Jeremiah these words and says use them, that's why it's important. That's why it's important to me, because I know that what I'm doing right now, my words mean a lot. And so it's unfortunate when I wind up repeating myself too many times because I'm not listening, because I'm paying too much attention to this car ahead of me and wanting to catch it. But I know that this is a 12-minute track, so I'm only halfway there. Yeah. So I better be catching up slowly. But I've got to use my words better than that. I'm not wanting to just talk about the game. I want to talk about what the Bible says, what God says, why I believe God's important, why I believe God's in charge, why I believe God gave me these words. Now, in a recent Gran Turismo that I put up, I was feeling like I had to talk about myself, and I didn't really know what to say. So I talked a little bit about my early childhood stuff, which is actually very important, but not what I feel like I was supposed to talk about. And I still don't really want to talk about myself because I want to feel anonymous. But video games helped me become the person that I am. Or video games helped me to form my ideas of the world, but they also helped me to escape in a time where I needed an escape, where life was hard and I needed something to balance it out. And my wife calls what I'm doing right now my outlet, and it's just an outlet to be able to free myself from my own thoughts and try and release my thoughts so that the world can know. And that's what I really want, is I want the world to know who Jesus is, and that Jesus is part of the Lord that was mentioned in Jeremiah 1:9, because Jesus is a part of God, and God is the Lord that's mentioned in Jeremiah 1:9. So, this is a story of God. It's God's story to Jeremiah, telling Jeremiah how... Whoa! Oh, I got you going too fast. Oh. Okay. And then God gave Jeremiah the words to be able to tell his story. And what's fascinating about this is, at one point in the book of Jeremiah, he says, I try to shut up because nobody's listening to me anyway, but when I shut up, it's like a fire in my bones. Even just trying to be quiet is like a fire in my bones. Oh, it was only an 8-minute track. Okay, well, that's alright. We got better than the first time. The first time we only got third, so we got second that time. I'm not going to redo this track because it's a long track anyway, and there's a whole bunch of other races. I'll come back to it because I want to get all golds. Not that I'm a completionist, but I will come back to it to try to get all golds. But it is interesting what... Oh, 4-wheel drive. Oh, what do I have that's 4-wheel drive? I have a lot. Let's see. I'm already using this Audi. I wonder why I can't use these other vehicles. Are they too heavy? Huh. Oh, no, I can't use that one. Oh. Okay, so I can use one of these. I'll go with this one. I don't know. Sorry. This is me getting off track because I can't remember, I don't know. I'm like looking at something new and wanting to learn and do it, but I also want my words to mean something. And this is where I find that there is a problem. Yeah, I'm starting 8th this time, it looks like. But I also think that it's okay that I'm doing this because I'm not necessarily getting off track, and I need to know how high. Oh, there we go. 393 was okay. Okay, that was the issue. Got it. Ooh. That one. So when I think about these, what God tells Jeremiah, and Jeremiah even dealing with, I don't want to tell people because they're not listening. So Jeremiah just says, fine, I don't have to tell people, I can be quiet. And the quiet that Jeremiah brings winds up actually kind of hurting him, because it burns inside of him. It tortured him. It was this, I know what I need to say. And I think early on my YouTube channel, it was this, I know what I need to say. I need to talk about who God is, who Jesus is. God gave me these words and I want to express them. But I didn't know how. I didn't know what the best way of doing it was. I know that there is a God, that God loves me, that God wants His word shared throughout the world. That's what God has said in the Great Commission was, go to all the world, every nation, and share who I am. And the Bible is getting out there. It has gotten out there. It is almost throughout the whole world. And now the Western nations are starting to decline in their faith a little bit. But God still wants the word out there. God still wants us to talk about it. He's wanted me to talk about it for a long time because I grew up feeling like I was supposed to tell the world who God is, but I didn't know how. So I went to school and I got my Bible and theology degree, and I'm sure I've mentioned this on the channel before because video games are important to me. They've been that outlet. They've been what's driven me. They've been where I focus. It's a battle with me to say, okay, is my treasure here on heaven because of the money that I'm putting into video games, or is my treasure in heaven because I trust God more than I trust the video games? And yes, I did just say the video games. And I hope that my treasure is in heaven. I would love to say for sure that my treasure's in heaven. But I fight. I struggle with where do I put video games in my life? What place do they hold? How important are they really to me? And so God said, they can be important to you because I'm giving you the words. I'm putting the words into your mouth. Just like I did with the prophet Jeremiah, I'm putting words into Jman's mouth. And I said, okay, but I still don't know how to do this. And early on, I didn't. Early on, it was just play, just have fun, just do what you gotta do. You just keep going, just kind of like the games, like Gran Turismo, just grind it out. It'll take time, it'll take practice, you'll get better, and as you get better, you'll feel better, but it's gonna take time. It's not gonna be easy. I don't want it to be easy. And then I said, okay. And then I thought I got it. I thought, okay, so maybe I can talk a little bit about God throughout each one of them, start calling this my ministry, but I was still missing the point. And I may still be missing the point. Because the point wasn't necessarily just about making it a ministry and talking about God a little bit throughout playing the video game. The point was to focus on God. Now, does that mean that everything I say in my videos is totally and 100% sold out to God? No. Because just in this video, when I was trying to figure out why I couldn't use a certain car, I was explaining that I don't know why I can't use this car. And I was talking about things that weren't God. And I feel like God is using that weakness as a strength. Because God is telling me that it's okay that I didn't necessarily fail, but that I didn't just talk about God. Now, a lot of times in these ones, these newer ones that I've been doing, since I've been calling them more sermon-esque and trying to preach, I tend to just focus on the context of the verse, but I don't put it into a more modern context. And I think that without trying to, this one, oh no, I'm on the last lap. This one has turned into something that has become modern. Now, I'll be honest, I don't burn inside when I don't talk about God enough on this channel. But when I don't listen properly to what God says, I was kicking myself. After the last time that I did a Gran Turismo, and or I guess it wasn't the last time, but there's one that's going up tomorrow from when I'm recording this. It goes up on the 23rd of July. That's the one that is where I'm talking a little bit about myself, and I failed to actually do that right. At least I feel like I failed to actually do that right. I'm not sure. But I don't feel like that matters to God. So that's what the other part of this is. Then the other part of this is making this a sacrifice. And what does that mean? Well, this means that as I'm listening to what God says, I'm sacrificing myself to do what I feel called to do. Where when I feel called to say, God called me to do this, it's a sacrifice in the fact that there are people out there who don't believe in God and who God is, and maybe think I'm a little bit crazy for believing in a God. But I know that I'm not crazy, and I know how much better I feel by saying this. It's like by explaining that God put his words into my mouth tonight, I feel more relaxed, and I felt the smile hit my face when it did, and I know it's still there. Maybe not as prevalent, but it's still there. I feel like a weight is off my shoulders, and I feel like I'm more focused on what I'm saying than on what's going on the screen here in front of me. Does that mean that my eyes are off the screen? No. But if my eyes were off the screen, I would crash this car and I would lose these races, and I don't want to lose. I'm trying to offer the best of myself to God. That doesn't mean that every race has to be a win. But it does mean that I'm offering who I am to God to use for God's glory. And that's where this becomes the sacrifice, where I take the words that God gave me and I say, okay, I want to give these words back to you. I want to give these actions back to you. I want to give these races back to you. Again, am I going to win every single race? Not necessarily. Am I supposed to win every single race? Not necessarily. But is that the point, to win every single race? No. That's where I'm getting it off and confused and mixed up. The point isn't about winning the races. The point's about talking about who God is, sharing who God is with the rest of the world. And that is where it comes into, this is why God is who he is. This is what God has done for me. What God has done for me is told me that it's okay to play video games and it's okay to talk about me. In fact, it's okay to do both at the same time. More to the point, I want you to do both at the same time. Which left me with the early, what? And then the, okay, well, you put your words into my mouth, so how do I express these words? And that's the beauty of it. God put his words into my mouth. God filled me with his words. And I get to use who I am. I get to use myself, my being, all of me, to express what God gave me to express. The words that God gave me, I get to use those words to express who God is. My nose is really itchy right now. That's why I keep trying to scratch at it, like right at the tip of my nose. And it's right when I get to one of those really big turns. I tried to get it when I was on the straightaway, but it did not work out as well as I'd hoped. But this is where I get to use what God gave me, my voice, my experience with video games. See, right now it's an outlet, but video games for me in the past were my escape. They helped me through some really hard times. They helped me through when my parents got divorced. They helped me through school when I didn't understand school. They helped me to figure out what life was, what life is. I was talking to a coworker, one that I'm not as harsh with, but I was talking to a coworker, and I expressed that video games, at least now, help me understand who God is, help me understand more about God. Things that I've said on this channel are things that I may not have thought about before I did this channel, even though I may have played Madden for years. Never realized, and other sports games, NBA Jam was a great game. I've got Madden not Madden. Well, yeah, I've got Madden 16, I got Madden 20, but you all know that. Gran Turismo Racing is a sport event. I've got MLB 2016. I want to say it's MLB, but it's one of those baseball ones, 2016. And so I've played sports games, but it wasn't until I was playing on my channel that I realized that the sports games are, without a doubt, a representation of athletes. And because God created man and God created athletes, God has athleticism in him. And it was when I was playing Minecraft on this channel that I realized, I think Minecraft is long gone though, but I do have a little bit about Minecraft on my blog, Jman and Magic Gate, same name. But when I was playing Minecraft, I realized that God's beautiful engineering, so only if you've been watching for a long time you'll know Minecraft was on here. I know I took it off because of Kappa, I think, but anyway, I took it off and I can't re-download it, and I'm not sure why right now. That doesn't matter. But I discovered God's beautiful engineering because there's an engineering mindset that takes place when you play Minecraft. You have to kind of be able to solve some engineering puzzles. At the same time, it's a beautiful game where you've got all these biomes and animals, and I didn't think it was beautiful when I was young. I didn't think it was beautiful until I actually played it, and then I realized that it was beautiful. And it taught me that God has an engineering mindset, but is also artistic. And those two ideas tend to contradict each other. Somebody can be artistic, but isn't necessarily engineering minded. Somebody can be engineering minded, but isn't necessarily artistic. Now, there are people who are both artistic and engineering and artistic. But engineering, at least for me, the way I think about it, is way too sciencey. And a lot of people who are science brain focused aren't art brain focused. And a lot of people who are art brain focused aren't science brain focused. Now, there are people who know both, who understand both. Do not get me wrong. Like Leonardo da Vinci was a very artistic minded person. Pablo Picasso understood some engineering and some artistic. But then you've got other people who don't understand one but understand the other. And that's why I think that the completion of when God created the world in an engineering and artistic manner? I don't know. Doesn't matter. God created the world artistically and engineeringly. Engineered an artistic world. There we go. That's the best way of putting it. God engineered a very artistic world. And that is what is so beautiful about the engineering. And I'm not very good with the engineering. I'm not very good with the artistic either. That's why I play games that are already artistically designed. And even if they deal with the engineering of a car, like the engine that I'm using here, and you know, the way the car is built and the physics and all that, there's still a difference to it, where this game is focused on aesthetic more than it's focused on the science of the engine, because it doesn't have me break the engine apart. It does have me add to the engine, but based on what I know, I'm not able to accurately conceptualize what's actually going on under the hood when I affect that portion of it. Hey, and there we go, another victory. Alright, cool. And that's another part that's important to me. Oh, we did get it. We got the daily workout, just barely. Nice. Yeah, 3 minutes left in this day. So cool. We got the daily workout, which we should get to that car, and that's really all I wanted. I just wanted the car. I'm selfish and greedy. I want my free car. That's all I want. I raced for my free car. I got it. And what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Okay. Okay. I can accept this older looking car. Renault R8 Gordini 1966. A GRX. And that's about all the time I have for this tonight anyway, because all I wanted was the car. I raced for the car. I got what I wanted. But I also hope that I expressed a little bit more about who God is and how powerful I believe God is, and that's why when he gave those words to Jeremiah, it made Jeremiah's prophetic career so much more amazing, because he had the powerful words that he knew he had, but it also reminds us that our words are still powerful. And that is something that we need to take with us as we go throughout our daily life, and as we do, as we live our lives. So, thank you for watching. May God bless you. And remember, God loves you. And those are some powerful words.